So Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you. Okay, there is a question, and I'm going to read the question to you all and hope that someone here locally can answer it. And to give you time to answer it, I'm going to do a reading to give you time to think about the answer. This is the question: what is the spiritual significance of the sun moving northwards at this time of year? What is the spiritual significance of the sun moving northwards at this time of year? This is what I wanted to read. It's from Christ, the Avatar, Sacrificial Love, and it's about the Christmas tree. At Christmas time, we decorate our trees, which is a very old custom, because the tree was also one of the factors of the great drama since the foundation of hierarchy. Christ said that he was the tree and we were the branches. He wanted us to be live branches, bringing forth the fruit of our good deeds. We decorate our Christmas trees with candles or lights, symbolizing the deepest aspiration of our hearts. This aspiration is that we should be a green tree, a tree with lights blooming forth and with gifts piled all around our trunk. The lights symbolize our subtle centers, which number 77. It is a perfect man all these centers must open, unfold, and radiate their colorful divine hues, like palpitating hearts with their proper virtues and energies. As the tree shines forth with lights, we say that the Christ consciousness within man increases and eventually becomes a light in the world. The gifts at the foot of the tree suggest what only a blooming man can give. He has the abundance of life, and he gives life to whatever he touches. He gives mentally, emotionally, and physically, and dedicates what he gives to the service of the growing light within. In the story of the star, capital S, star, in the story of the star, we are told that the three magi dressed in their best garments before meeting the child. It is very significant. In mystical language, the garments are the vehicles of man. They must be purified, made beautiful, and then the human entity within them becomes able to approach higher levels of consciousness, the higher worlds, and puts to use the growing light within. Okay, who would like to answer that question? What is the spiritual significance of the sun moving northwards at this time of year? You're also welcome to answer it if you're online, and we have quite a few people online today, which is very lovely. Quite a few. You're welcome to answer too. Well, let me get my pencil and I'll take notes here. Now, this is not a hard question, is it? Okay.
Well, I think of north as going up towards light. I think of people following the North Star, and it's the guiding star. It's representative of something higher, something of light, something of love and beauty.
So, okay. And here's another question. Could it be as symbolic of evolution, climbing toward perfection within us? Well, okay. This is what I was thinking. It is definitely symbolic, but also realistic and experiential. We've just come through the darkest period, which some people call the in-breath. In other words, we've taken what we have studied and experienced and tried to put into manifestation. Then, when we go into the in-breath, we take everything and begin to reconsider what we have done. Reconsider the plan for our unfolding human soul. Reconsider our goals. And then do some adjusting. It's also a time of deep meditation where we put ourselves in the inner light, let's say, and ask for guidance. Am I living the purpose of my life? This is all taking place during the in-breath. Am I living the purpose of my life? Do I understand the purpose of my life? Is the direction in my life a reflection of my soul purpose? Other people consider during the dark period or the in-breath is they see it as a time of quietude, of calmness, of peacefulness, of, in other words, my word, hibernation. And on a very realistic note, it's easier for me to get up on the out-breath than the in-breath. 7 o'clock is still dark outside. 6 o'clock in the morning, it's even darker outside. It's hard to get up and get out and get moving. Okay, so now with the winter solstice, which was Friday, and the sun now moving northward, this is a time to set our alarm clocks to get up earlier. I'm sorry, it's like you guys are so solemn here. It's a time to now take all of that in-breath inspiration and our adjustments and readjustments and ideas and recognizing whether we are indeed going in the right direction and so on and so forth. And now we're going to take all that we have taken into ourselves and we're going to breathe it out over the next 6 months. So, and the perhaps more obvious is the birth of the Christ within, so that our light is increasing and increasing and increasing. So thank you for all that. And here's another person. Yes, great, thank you. The significance of the sun moving northwards at this time of the year is turning us toward our true self. Absolutely. Okay, so our format this morning is going to be a little bit different in as much that we're going to have the meditation after the Sunday talk. So I'm going to talk about I am the light of the world. It's not Joleen, it is the title. Just to be perfectly clear. I am the light of the world. And then after the talk, we'll have our meditation. So today is our Christmas service. At Christmas time, we're celebrating the birth of Christ. The most important point in this celebration is that in each of us there is a Christ nature. People tend to forget that, and I think those of us that know it and yet forget it, it's not a conscious forgetting. It is because we're so busy in our life, trying to solve our problems and keep afloat and paying our bills and keeping our kids out of trouble. And, there's so much that takes up our time that we forget that within each of us there is the Christ nature. This is why the teachings encourage us to engage in a silent time every day, truly silent. And part of that silence can be experienced through meditation. A meditation, it's not a relaxation meditation. This is what we call an active seed thought meditation that eventually takes our consciousness to such a level where we move into a stage of more advanced meditation called contemplation. When our light increases to the degree that we can experience contemplation is when our consciousness functions in the spiritual triad. It's then that we can make that connection with a deeper light, a greater light, the fiery world. And so contemplation is an ongoing process. We start our day in the morning recognizing that we are celebrating the Christ nature within us every single minute, of our 24-hour day. That puts us in contact with the light and the love and the power of the spiritual triad, that holy triad. And it charges us with creative energies that would be impossible otherwise, to know and to experience. True contemplation, the moment of contemplation is very short, whereas meditation is 5 minutes. True meditation is 5 minutes. Contemplation, maybe seconds. Because in the beginning, the fiery energy that is evoked through contemplation overloads our physical, emotional, mental body if we're not prepared. It activates our cellular structure. It activates the permanent atoms to a degree that if we're not ready to receive this intense fiery energy, then there's a breakdown, a physical, emotional, mental breakdown that occurs in our bodies. So this is why we start with meditation. And then maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, we finally recognize that Christ that's within, that presence of pure light, pure love, and His will. And that moves us into the stage of contemplation. And that is the time that we'll never forget. No matter what's going on in our day-to-day life, we'll never forget that within each of us there is that Christ nature. So this is very fundamental to our teaching. It is something that we need to repeat and think about and meditate upon until we start putting that seed into action and blooming, that there is a Christ nature in each of us. As Christmas is getting closer, we want to charge our souls with the energy of Christ. We can imagine now that millions of people are thinking about Christmas, in any way possible. It doesn't matter. As they are thinking about Christmas and Christ, they are linking their hearts with that great one. That great one, of course, is sending us His blessing and His energy to every human being that is trying to link with Him. He is just like an electrical power station. If we build a wire to that station, we will receive the power of that station. That is what we are trying to do. We are trying to create a communication line between that Great One and ourselves, so that eventually and gradually our entire nature is changed. Some may say, but I don't need to change my entire nature. Okay, think back in the day of the Neanderthal man, and that man or woman is saying, there's nothing in me that needs to be changed. Right? See, then it makes sense. We don't want to be, although there are some people out there that are still living as a Neanderthal person. Anyway, this is a very important concept. It's easy to say and to hear, but eventually we're trying to charge ourselves with the energy of the Christ. If we can fuse ourselves with that energy, we will see the changes that are going to take place in our life. So at first we may not feel it. We might play around with the idea and say, okay, it sounds good, but I really don't believe it. That is okay, but continue directing yourself to that source. And eventually you're going to see something, that within you there is a new light. As that light increases, you will see what needs to be changed in your life and what duties and responsibilities are in the life. It is so important to think about this. In each of us, there are great potentials. Great potentials. The potential means the greatness within us that we have not yet been able to realize. Yet despite these great potentials, we are still living in a very backward evolution like Neanderthal. We are going to awaken that nature and bring it out so that one day the Christ nature, the divine nature within us, shines out. All else is vanity. Vanity is a waste of time. If the Christ nature does not manifest through us, then all that we are doing and talking and thinking works against our own survival and evolution. So, yes, we are going to try to charge ourselves with that energy. If we fuse ourselves with that energy, we will then begin to see changes taking place in our life. That light energy, that love energy, that power energy coming from the Christ because of our linkage with Him. This is going to transform our life. It will not make us full of vanity, thinking that we have become something. On the contrary, once we come in contact with His light, we will see how many light years we need to expand toward His being. And this is humility. This is what is called humility. Christ is a model, and we want to become like Him. So what does that mean? Well, think about it. One day, a great Hindu poet, Tagore, received a letter from the United States. The letter said, "We have lots of preachers here." This is from the United States. "We have lots of preachers here. If you need any, in Bengal, we will send them so that they can start forming churches and institutions for you." He received that letter. Tagore received that letter, and he wrote back, and he said, "If you have a Christ or a few Christs, then send them. We don't need preachers." So he wanted to say something very deep. If a person who just knows Christ, if a person just knows who Christ is, that doesn't help. It's like we hear people in the teaching, in the Ageless Wisdom teaching, and they've bought all the books and they have all the DVDs and all the CDs of anything that they've ever heard or watched. It doesn't mean they know the teaching. If a person just knows who Christ is, that doesn't help. He must be like him, so that the Christ manifests through him. In all of Christ's teachings, he said, I am the light of the world. Then he said something very exciting. He said, you are the light of the world. Then he linked these two lights by saying, my Father is the Father of lights. So there is nothing else except that great light, that light and our light. The only secret is to find a way to link these two lights so that the installation of our electricity is complete and we have the shining light within our nature. From the teachings, we are given 7 lights, how Christ taught us about 7 lights. The first light is that Christ taught was the light of discrimination. The light of discrimination. Real discrimination is a light coming from our higher mind, which sees things as they are. Discrimination lets us know what the thoughts are that will lead us to our goal, and what the thoughts are that will prevent us from reaching our goal. Discrimination will show us what to read and what not to read. Discrimination will show us which path is taking us to our target and which path is taking us away from our target. So before we open our mouth, we can ask, are these words and thoughts right or wrong? Stop and think. Many years ago, I used to engage in a exercise using what was called shoe stick cards. And one of those cards had the symbol of a magpie. And I've never forgotten that, because a magpie has no discrimination. They just talk and talk and talk and talk until we just, those of us that are listening, we just totally zone out. So don't be a magpie. Ask yourself before you speak, are these words and thoughts right or wrong? Before you post on your Facebook or on Messenger or tweet. And I'm sure there are others out there now. It's hard to keep up with it all. But before you post, ask yourself, are my words right or wrong? Is that picture that I'm posting right or wrong? Because these days, as we know recently, Facebook got hacked, and what was hacked was our photographs, our pictures. If you're posting pictures of your children on Facebook, man, I would not do it if these kids are little. Teenagers are posting pictures of themselves doing crazy, goofy things. If you are practicing this first light of discrimination, and you're going to teach this to your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, think about what we're doing just in today's society that 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 years from now can come back and cause us so many serious problems. Or this, when you are in our sanctuary, Are you acting obnoxious with your words? And what does that mean? Are you making loud noises, talking loudly? Are you drawing attention to yourself? Or are you respectful and beautiful and radiant and refined? Are your behaviors as such that the light of discrimination is in operation? When you come into this sanctuary to attend a class, an event, a Sunday service, you come in quietly. Do you give yourself plenty of time to find a sit, to find a place to sit, and then to enjoy in quiet contemplation the beauty of the silence? So the first light is discrimination. If we start putting discrimination into action, we will see the light increasing in us. The second light is the light of love. Love is an intense light that reveals things. For example, you have an enemy. Listen carefully. You can know your enemy only by loving your enemy. Truly. Love will expose exactly what that person is. Sometimes you will be horrified to find that that person was your greatest friend, and you never saw it because of your negative emotions. It's so interesting. So the light of love is more penetrative than any light. Love, and you will know more. If you hate, the divinity will not give you its secrets. The third light is purity. If you read his teaching really clearly, you're going to see that that light is so strong. Never can we do real and good things without having that light in our mind, our mouth, our emotions, and actions. Darkness cannot conquer one thing. It cannot conquer purity. Think of this. Purity is the greatest strength and power that we have in the world. For example, when we think about Christ, we will find that nobody could conquer him. In spite of the crucifixion, hatred, ignorance, and denials, nobody could conquer him because he was so pure. A computer person came to see a teacher one day. He was Chinese. He said that he was an expert in computers. The teacher said, "Well, do you know about Christ?" "Well, what does Christ have to do with computers?" "Well," the teacher said, "I will tell you a secret. Think about him. Knock on the door and ask him things that you don't know yet." Okay. He later called the teacher and said, "Teacher, I found the first thing. It's so magnificent." That is what we are talking about. Love him more, but equally love the human beings in whom the Christ nature exists. And you will see how the doors will open. Our civilization, with all of our achievements, is 50,000 years behind because of our hatred and because we have not recognized the power, the source of knowledge that is ready to give us the secrets by which we can proceed. The fourth one is the light of awareness. This light of awareness comes from contact with God. It is so strange. As we have greater contact with God, we have an awareness, a greater awareness that is so strong that it penetrates any phenomenon. And it reveals to us the secrets, the sciences, the knowledge, the way that things are done and will be done. What's very curious to me is, let's say, particularly in the time, these holy days we're in now, we can receive that light of and love of inspiration that creates an awareness in us that would otherwise not be possible. And you want to share that awareness with somebody. And that somebody will ask you, well, what book did you get that in? How do you answer somebody like that? You say, look within. Look within. It is a strange light. Christ has that light. He said, I and my Father are one. It is the oneness that creates that radioactivity. The oneness. Not my vanity, not my intelligence, not my degrees. It's that oneness. There's so much I could talk about here. It's so cool because, it's like once you open up the gate to higher knowledge, and we're talking about something, then it's like the galloping horses or the fountain of beauty and love and light starts coming into your mind. Like it's happening now, and I have so much I would like to share, but that thought is going out for us all, and we'll pick up on it. Anyway, so the fifth light is the light of intuition. What is intuition? Intuition is instantaneous realization of the oneness of life. It is not a hunch. It's not even a feeling. I have a feeling this was going to happen, or I have a feeling, I had this feeling before it happened it was going to happen. It's not that. That's not intuition. It is instantaneous realization of the oneness of life. So intuition is instantaneous realization. In realization, you know that you are in Him and He is in you, and that you and He are one. If you have that realization for 1 second, you're going to be powerful in any condition. You can do almost anything with that realization. Okay, so how will that intuitional light start operating within us? We must come in contact with Him. So let's say a person is standing there and he says, I am a candle. Yes, but you don't have light. Come here. You light the candle. Now, that person has light. It is just like this. The intuitional light starts operating within us once it is lit. So light your candle. When it is lit, then we have light. Light your candle. It is not enough to have a candle. Just like it's not enough to have every single book of the teaching on your shelf. Open it up, read it, study it, think about it, meditate on it, and then live it. Some of us do not have a flame. Who are those who have a flame? They are those who have the light from another candle. They have made contact with the heart of their teacher, the ashram, their master, and eventually Christ. So the light of intuition can be developed only with intense worship and dedication and devotion until we feel that we are one with Him. Torquem Serdarian wrote, I remember 8-9 years ago, I wrote Christ, the Avatar of Sacrificial Love. At the back of that book, there is a meditation to come in contact with Christ. A man who is not Christian came to talk to me. He said, can I come in contact with Him? I said, of course. Well, I don't think so, he said. Torquem said, here's the meditation. Just try it. Do it with all your heart and soul and might and see what will happen. I said, he said, Torquem said. and the person that asked him the question was horrified. One day, however, when he was doing the meditation, a great light entered into his house, and he saw his face. He changed into a Christ worshiper. The next one is the light of the will. The simplest way to explain this is in this way. If you are against the law, then you are weak. If you are for the law, with the law, then you are strong. What is the law? It is the expression of the will, the divine will. If you are with the divine will, then you have the light. You have the perception, intuition. You have understanding. You have realization. You have awareness. Everything you have, you are strong because you have the light of the will. You can test it on yourself. If you are with the will of God, nothing can defeat you. We are so far away from that will. If we are so far away from that will, everything is going to defeat us. Because the greatest defeater is ourselves. We defeat ourselves. So the will is another light. It's the sixth light. And the seventh light is to see Christ in every human being, His presence. Can we do this? Can we do this? So how do we do this? Because most people say, this is my religion. It's my tradition, it's my country. Your country, my business. That is your business. My family, your family. Is your mother-in-law part of your family? Only a part of her family. And so forth. This is so wrong because we haven't learned yet our lesson to recognize the divinity within each other. Think about it. Do you see the divinity within your children, within your spouse, within your mother-in-law? Do you recognize the divinity within each other? A man wrote a letter to his teacher and he said, "Teacher, I hate my wife. She is this, and this, and this, and this." Then he signed his name and he wrote a word in Sanskrit called namaste. Right. The teacher commented, "What a poor guy is this guy." Namaste means greetings to the divinity within you. So he told the student, "How come you are not respecting the divinity within your wife, yet you are writing namaste there in your letter? Look how contradictory you are." This does not mean we are becoming a Mr. or Miss Goody Two-Shoes, or that we will swallow every pill that they are giving us, or that we're going to allow ourselves to be misused and manipulated. That's not the reality. Seeing the presence is seeing the Christ potentiality in the human being and making efforts to release that potentiality so that you have another Christ person by you. Isn't this beautiful? So these are the 7 lights of Christ. When Christmas is here, do not forget about them. A great sage asked us, how are you going to spend your Christmas? You bought lots of gifts for each other. Who bought a gift for God? Did any of you prepare to give a gift to Him? A student said, what am I going to give Him? I received hundreds of cards and some gifts also, but there is something unrestful in me. What am I going to present to Him, to my teacher, to the Master, to God? Think about it, and on Christmas Eve, offer it. Say, Lord, this is my gift for you. Can you accept it? What can you give to the divinity within you and within the universe? A little boy told his teacher, when the teacher asked him if he had bought some gifts, the boy said, well, I was selling papers and I made some money. I bought a gift for my mother and one for Daddy and something for my sisters. They are all wrapped and nobody knows what I bought for them. And the teacher said, did you think about giving one gift to God? The boy said, yes. He says, yes, I know about that. Well, what is it? The teacher said, I'm going to give him all my lies so that there will be no lies remaining in me. Brilliant little boy. So Merry Christmas.